Whew, we are here at the Chattanooga Film Festival, Horror Happens Radio, and it is in the final stretch Sunday. A lot of great stuff has happened over this journey into the inferno that is Chattanooga, Tennessee. BFF Girls, it has been one of the highlights of the festival on so many levels, whether it's nostalgia with the aspect of, the larger-than-life Asian action television storytelling of Sailor Moon, the aspect of Power Rangers, and then here more in the States with Powerpuff Girls, the idea of incredibly disturbing at times practical effects, very intimate practical effects. I think I can say that with all honesty. The idea of meeting those connected to the project that I've known for a while, as well as new faces that I'm meeting for the first time, but also the fact of seeing it screen amongst a selection of shorts that really kind of takes you to different spaces with the WTF. So, Brian, how are you doing, first of all, and how has Chattanooga been for you?
I'm tired because I'm sitting and I'm watching a lot of films, and it's great. This is my third time coming to Chattanooga, but this is the first time where I've stayed for most of the festival. We came on Thursday and saw the opening night feature. Of course, our shorts were one of the first blocks playing on Thursday at like 5:30 p.m. So I had to be there for that. And we're probably going to leave like later this evening. I wish I could stay for Super Inframan.
Me too.
But I can't. I got to go back home.
Back to reality?
Back to reality. Yeah, that's weird. It's weird. When you go to these places, it's like a weird, fun vacation / like family reunion of sorts, because you get to see old friends and sometimes you get to meet filmmakers that you've conversed with over social media or have played in the same circles with, but you've never met them, and you finally get to meet them, and they're cool people. One filmmaker who I've known since, I guess, 2014 or 2015 is Chris McEnroy.
Right, exactly.
Who did Bad Guy Number 2 and Death Metal.
And
we summoned the demon at the festival, and we've been
got
on
my pen somewhere here.
Oh, nice. And we've been on the circuit together for a few years, and I finally got to meet him, and
I don't care if you close the door.
And the nice thing is when he was working on Demon, I was working on BFF Girls, and we had shared our scripts.
Nice.
And we had shown each other our works in progress cuts of the film, and then and we also backed each other's campaigns because we both did crowdsourced campaigns, and it's great to be on the circuit with him, with his film, just like Jill, who produced BFF Girls.
Right,
She world premiered her short here. I hadn't met Izzy Lee, even though I've known her for a few years and have been familiar with her work. Finally got to meet her too. It's just there's like countless people that have come through that I've met, even if just for 5 minutes, and it's all through social media. Social media is obviously like a bad thing, but it also is a good thing because you can at least connect with these people that are on the circuit with you, and you can share links in case you can't see their film.
Right.
And there's a lot of talented filmmakers out there, both obviously features, but especially shorts, which is my realm right now. So it's terrific. I'm glad, and I'm that's what's getting me up, so I can go to these 10 a.m. screenings and keep going. Is like, what am I going to see? What's going to be wild? And who can I become friends with next?
Wow. I'll tell you something. Not very often such a well-rounded explanation about the levels of a film festival. Because, that's one thing when you look at CFF or a lot of other film festivals. They all have their individual personalities, as we talked about before we jumped on mic. But being a filmmaker isn't just about making a film. It's about the business side of it, with getting it out there, with the social media aspect of promoting it. It's about the technical aspects and the visual aspects. It's about sound. It's about the idea of collaboration and communication. There's so many different parts to this paradigm that is filmmaking with it. And to come into one event and find everything that you can look for, a one-stop shop for creating the next project, that's got to be really incredible. And, as you sit here, what's your wife's name?
My wife's name's Tori. Yeah.
Tori, okay. As you and Tori come to these events and you bring cast, you bring crew for BFF Girls, as well as your previous projects, is that thinking that you're coming to wear more than one hat at the top of your brain when you walk in this building?
I try.
Okay.
Yes, I try, but I'm not like I love talking to people, and I want to get to know people and like just like gush about their films and just talk about all that stuff. But I'm not a big partier, so I don't.
Same here.
I don't quite go to all the parties and stuff. Like I didn't go on the boat party, but I watched King Boxer at 11 p.m.
Nice.
because like I look at their lineup and it's like, well, there's a lot that I want to see. So
Exactly.
when I come here, I'm definitely a moviegoer. So, and I've seen a lot, and I'm also here as the director, to attend the Q&As and answer the questions, and also, when I'm up there and I have my crew, I have to be. It's not like I'm going out of my way to like do it. It's just like I want to make sure like everybody who's up there, representing our film gets a chance to talk because they all worked hard. Like it's not. I never put like a film by Brian Lanano or a Brian Lanano film. I always say directed by Brian Lanano because I cannot take all the credit. It's co-written by me and my wife. It's produced by myself, Jill, and Blake Myers. And, there's just so many talented people who are part of the production that it would be really selfish to say it's a film by Brian Lanano. So I'm very adamant about never saying that.
I love the aspect of how humble you are in the whole process and being a filmmaker. I mean, there's ego involved in being a filmmaker, whether you intend it or you don't.
Yeah.
But as you go across, and just like having a child, you become humbled by the process of being a parent, and it changes who you are. Talking to Rebecca McKendry and David McKendry earlier this morning about All the Creatures Were Stirring, one of the things I brought up was how their lives have changed because they had to stop filming. They had the birth of child. They redesigned their house. A lot of different things, career changes and stuff. Yeah. And it affects who you are. And that's why BFF Girls is one of my favorites of the weekend because you're most welcome. Because of the fact that it connects to a part of my life where I was much different than I am now. My sister, who is currently in Scotland right now and dealing with the same crappy weather we're dealing here in Chattanooga, one of the things that we're 9 years apart, one of the things that we had in common was Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And we had that kind of, not necessarily Japanese animation, but that larger-than-life action style that you saw with it. We would talk about, we'd watch on TV. I've actually met the Green Ranger, which is pretty cool.
Oh,
Tommy is awesome. Let's
great.
met him a couple times. But the point is we had that connection together with it. And that's what BFF Girls is so remarkable because not only is it dark, is it funny, it has its horror elements, it really addresses part educational, part in your face, the idea of a development of a young woman, or women in this case. Mm-hmm. But it's also with the visual style, with the innocence of it, with the idea of everyone collaborating with it. It takes you back to a time where the kaiju are there and the big robots are there and you have strong empowering female characters kicking ass and taking names. There's just so much to it, as you can hear with me. With people watching this short, BFF Girls, and finding connections in so many levels, what's that like inside for you to hear that?
Well, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps as you tell me that, and I'm almost like getting misty in the eyes, like it means a lot when somebody connects with one of my films because I don't say, well, of course you did or something like that. Like I don't say anything like that. Like it is like really humbling, and it I will always gush about not to use a poor word.
That's okay.
But
I just got that, folks. When you see it, you'll understand.
Not to gush about Jill or Tori or Blake or all the actors and all the crew, Jeff who did the visual effects and Inez who edited it and Josh who filmed it. Like I can go on and on and on.
Right.
Like people I trust and Tony Ed who did the costumes. People I trust and I don't micromanage them. Like they do. I give them guidelines of what I want, and then they surpass my expectations because I don't always have like an absolute clear idea. I'm not somebody who's like, I know exactly what lens I want. I know exactly what this thing should be. That
Right.
I have like some ideas, but I'm more of a decision maker on set. So if Blake comes to me and says, "Is it? Do you want this or this?" I'll say it's that.
Right.
That's what fits. But to go back, so I put those people up, and so whenever anybody says really really glowing things about me, I get very like embarrassed and red in the face and stuff. I don't know if it's like that I take praise well or something like that,
Right.
but it's like, it's like I don't feel that it's deserved. I don't deserve it in a weird Catholic guilt kind of way. I don't deserve it. But
That's a whole nother can of words,
a whole
folks.
nother can of words. But no, that means a lot to say, and it means a lot when I give the sort of elevator pitch to people who I don't know. And the thing I say is that it's about 3 dorky American girls who transform into beautiful Japanese superheroes and battle a tampon monster as they enter womanhood.
Anti-flow.
Yeah, as they begin their journey into womanhood. So I'm telling this to somebody, and I don't know what they're gonna say, but 9 times out of 10 they say that sounds amazing, and so that feels good to hear that like nobody's like up in arms about what I'm trying to do, because never did it cross my mind that we were going to do anything that was going to be what I kept saying from the get-go was like I wanted to be offensive, but for the right reasons.
I like that a lot.
Not for the wrong reasons, because
I like that a lot.
because I didn't want people to get upset about us like potentially making fun of periods, because I wasn't. That
Right,
wasn't
exactly.
the intention at all. The intention was to show empathy for people who have periods, and to show that it's not a taboo thing, because it's still kind of taboo. People still don't like to talk about it. But when you live with someone who gets them and you're married, you become desensitized to
Right.
it. So it was just sort of that thing. And I had made a previous short, William, and I really enjoyed challenging the audience to sit through that, because that's another weird kind of story. Have you seen William?
I have not. No.
Okay, so the subject line of that one is that a recently released ex-convict goes out looking for action, and he stumbles across a goblin named William who gives him like an incredible blowjob, but he is repulsed by it.
Sexuality.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and sexuality is something that I've never done before in a film. Everything I did was like goofy or
Right.
like ethereal or just plain slapstick gory type of stuff, like with Crowhand. But this was the first one that I was doing something involving sexuality, and I wasn't sure. It was actually an idea I had a few years back, and just sort of like put it away, because I was like, I don't know if I can do this right now. Like I'm still trying to work on getting a name for myself and stuff like that. But with the success that Crowhand had on the circuit, it felt like the right time to do something like that, something challenging like that.
That's amazing you say about the timing, because that has been a theme for this weekend. Revenge comes to mind. 42 Counts comes to mind. BFF Girls comes to mind in a different light. But there's been a lot of cinema, a lot of storytelling that reflects our society, reflects where we are. Ghost Stories is another one that comes to mind, with the aspect of invading privacy and, destroying belief, and disproving because of a trauma that you had earlier in your life. Fascinating to see how different eras have different storytelling tools and themes that are a part of it. When you look at BFF Girls, the aspect of getting your period, the idea of becoming a woman, the characters, again, very empowering, larger than life characters. Even the dorky girls are larger than life in how they dress and how they interact, in their reactions. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I mean, it's wonderful the way that it's directed and the way that they pull off performances. When you look at BFF Girls with it, the aspect of the horror of it is wonderfully weaved in there. And I mean, our show is more strictly horror. There's a horror to the reality of it. And the point I'm trying to get to here with is, there was also a short called M for Mastectomy, Masquerade Pictures, and they presented this woman who was ripping out her stitches after a mastectomy. And it was arguably the most painful 3 minutes you're ever going to watch, because it's a woman who is destroying herself. It's body horror, it's sound, it's shadows, it's darkness. And when I went up to talk with the filmmakers, I stood in front of the young woman and I said, "Great job." And she goes, "My husband directed that." And I went, wow, a male perspective on something that is so female. And that's the thing with this, Brian. You directing BFF Girls, directing a subject that is taboo to many men. How much do you rely on Tori? How much do you rely on yourself to tell a story that's not male?
Well, so how the story came to be was my wife and I binge watching Sailor Moon on Hulu. Like,
Okay.
they had the whole series, and she watched it as a
Crunchyroll?
kid. No Crunchyroll, no Hulu
okay.
Plus. So she watched it as a kid. I watched Power Rangers, and but I got into it, and I enjoyed how campy and lighthearted it was. But like, the main character Usagi was also like a very emotional
Right.
young girl, because like when you're a teenager or you're like a pre-teenager, like that's what you are. You know,
Right.
if you're hungry or you're upset or something, you're gonna make a fuss. Like even young boys do that too. So we thought it would be like a lot of fun to do a film like that. You know, I wanted to do something very colorful and very bright, because I love the aesthetic of Sailor Moon, and I wanted to do something like that in a live action setting. And the Speed Racer film came to mind, but I didn't want to do Speed Racer.
Right, exactly.
I wanted to do something that looked a little more rough around the edges, because one thing I love in a lot of the Japanese films and TV shows like Ultraman or Godzilla, or to the film I'm going to mention in a minute, they have a wonderful sort of handcrafted aesthetic to them that looks cheap, but ultimately I favor that more than any of the highly polished stuff nowadays. Okay. So a film that I saw in 2009 really is like the catalyst of wanting to do something exceptionally colorful and very wild and unhinged, and that was the 1977 movie House by Nobuhiko Obayashi. I saw that at the Boston Underground Film Festival in 2009, and it just changed. It changed me. I have a few transformative moments in my life growing up watching films, and that was definitely one that opened my mind to like, wow, this movie like throws kinds of rules out the window,
right.
and it's its own thing, and I loved the confidence in the filmmaker to go with that. But anyway, so we always wanted to do something colorful like that, and I was really drawn to the aesthetic of Sailor Moon. So that's one aspect of wanting to do the film. We were also talking about people in America who have like a Japanophilia of sorts. Yes. So they giggle like the anime girls do. They do that kind of thing. So there's a little bit of satire in there about Americans like loving Japanese culture.
Right.
So that's why we were like, we should have them actually transform into Japanese superheroes. You know, not just like, not put them in crazy hair. Like, let's have them be just like normal, like pretty Japanese girls, but in these like Sailor Moon type uniforms. So that was another aspect. And then the other leaf of the origin of BFF Girls was a lot of the stories in BFF Girls have to deal with some cursed object that then transforms into a monster. Like I remember this, like there's a camera monster, there's like a race car monster, you know, a hairbrush monster, whatever. So we thought like it would be great to do a tampon monster, and Tori said, yeah, she should be called Auntie Flo or something like that. And we thought that was like a great idea. And then you know, obviously talking about periods like I knew was taboo, but it was after making Gwilliam and sort of like challenging people to watch like a man get filleted by a goblin. I really enjoyed making people uncomfortable, and I wanted to do it again, but I wanted to make sure that what we were going to do was not going to offend for the wrong reasons. Like, yes, a man is going to drink tons of period blood in the film, and that's what I wanted to be offensive. Thank you. I wanted someone to be doing that in the film, and that's what I wanted to be offensive. I didn't want the girls transforming into Japanese superheroes to be offensive. I didn't want to be talking about periods in an offensive way, because I have seen films and I've heard films where they don't handle it quite right. They handle it the way, a foolish way, you know. So we wrote the draft, Tori and me, and what we did was we actually showed it to a few people before, and we said, you know, what do you think? Is this offensive? Does this offend you? And the people I sent it to were like, filmmakers, female filmmakers who are peers of mine, people I respect.
Right.
I also sent it to my friend Naoko, who has a creative consultant credit, but she wanted to be called Bacon Turtle.
Okay.
So I credited her as Bacon Turtle, but I gave her a special thanks in the end credits as well. But Naoko, who's a very talented filmmaker who I met in America, but she's moved back to Japan, I sent it to her as well, and I said, does this offend you? Does this upset you? And I always ask that question to all the actresses who auditioned, because I wanted to make sure what I was doing was not like for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And really, like, the way I wrote it was I never was going to do anything like overtly offensive in those respects, because like I said, when you live with somebody for a long time and they have periods,
yes.
And they say like, oh my God, I'm dying. Like, they say those things because they're in pain. Like, you feel bad. You're never going to have that pain, in your life as a guy. So like, but I wanted to show like that I felt bad that you have that pain, that you have to go through that like people, sometimes ladies get a lot of shit for no reason, like, and it sucks. I feel bad for them, and I'm not saying I'm some kind of like savior or some better person or whatever for making a film like that, but it's just, I just wanted to make something. And I wanted to have some poking fun here and there about like, the kind of like fanaticism of like, what do they call them? Weeaboos? Do they call them weeaboos? That's what they call like Americans who are like super into anime, and they get their hair all styled like that and stuff, and
they wear the outfits, drink the soda.
They wear the outfits, they drink the soda. Yeah, exactly, all that stuff. So we wanted to poke fun of that, and the other thing that we wanted to poke fun of was the trope in a lot of those animes that have like a wise old teacher who's kind of like a dirty old man.
I would say don't give too much away.
Yeah,
because this is, out of all the shorts that I could talk about, this is the one where talking less in detail gives more to the audience out there. It really does, because when you're talking about, you already have a structure of what to expect from Power Rangers and Sailor Moon and Powerpuff and being a woman and going through all this. But then it just gets worse and deeper and darker and funnier because of the fact of the reaction of the mirror on the wall that says, you want to drink period blood?
Yeah.
What's wrong? That's kind of a little creepy. And then the aspect of the master, who is something that I was thinking of the final scene with what he does to himself, and then you have the girls and how spectacular the transformation is. So when you talk about it, automatically it brings up those visuals with it. And that's something, sitting down, talking with your team, what was it like to be able to design the costumes and have the chance to take the formula of the Asian inspired, larger than life action anime part and design sequences that reflect what you liked about it?
With the costumes, Toniette Gallego, who did the costume design, like, she's a huge fan of Wonder Woman. Right. She's no Sailor Moon, so she's all about like strong female superheroes. So I told her like the sort of thing I wanted, but I wasn't like specific. I said, make it like this, and then I left it up to her. Right. Yeah, because I trust her, and I trust like a lot of the people on my team. Like I trust the visual effects supervisor Jeff. I trust the editor Inez, and I trusted Josh, who's the DP. So like, I know like certain things that I want, like, and I storyboard the film, so I have already a guideline of and stuff. And I'm a huge fan. If there's one kind of camera trick I love more than anything, it's the zoom. The zoom is one of my favorite things. I love a snap zoom. I love a clumsy snap zoom. I was watching King Boxer last night, and there's so many zooms, and so many of them are clumsy, where it's going, but it kind of stops. It's like it sticks a bit, and it keeps going. Like, I love those. They're not imperfect. They're perfect in their imperfections. Right. And I've even told them, like, do some zooms, but they don't have to be like smooth. Do some that are kind of like clumsy. Yeah. And that was important to have those kinds of visual tropes. The transformation scene, I know a lot in Sailor Moon, they have like bubbles. There's always stuff flying in the background and stuff. So we wanted to make sure like the transformation scene was like very similar in a visual sense to the Sailor Moon transformations, because those are a little more elongated, I think, because that show is kind of budgeted, so they have like sequences that are like animated beautifully, and they just like use them for every single episode, and it actually like is a good way for like them to like eat up time just in case like they don't have enough. So it's a good like way to keep budget costs down for doing like 52 episodes of a season. So, but we wanted ours to be brief because like we had originally thought about doing more gratuitous sexualized poses, but not for any like weird creepy director motive, but it was more of like poking fun at
what
those,
they do.
Yeah, because like
you did that with the antagonist in there, with how dramatic he is, and
exactly, yeah, exactly. So because I remember very clearly in a Sailor Moon episode where Sailor Jupiter transforms, and it starts on her like waist, and like the skirt blows up and you see all the way up to her thigh, and she's supposed to be like 14. So I'm watching that, and from my perspective I'm like, that's weird and that's uncomfortable, and but I know there's people out there who are like, yeah, like they're into that, and like I wanted to like address that, but ultimately due to like schedule, because we had a massive curveball thrown at us on the last shoot day, but I'll get into that later. So we wound up cutting out those kind of gratuitous things. We did a test shoot where there was like a gratuitous cleavage shot, but ultimately I talked to Tony Ed about the costumes, and we thought about like making them more sexual, but we opted to keep them very sort of conservative, I would say, but still very flashy and very pretty. But yeah, we just opted not to do that because it was gratuitous, intentionally gratuitous, but then like because of that it became gratuitous because it wasn't going to propel the plot anymore. It was just going to be like an added satirical joke, but we opted to cut it out.
Well, there's a lot within BFF Girls that pushes the boundaries, and you know, whether you're talking about the villain Anti-Flo, whether you're talking about the aspect of how the period is presented, which is the logistical, I have no doubt, a logistical journey to be able to create what you did with it, and how the talent dealt with the aspect of that practical aspect. It's fascinating. You know, there's a lot of stuff that pushes the boundaries with this, but yet because of the humor, yet because of the silliness of it, yet because of the timing of it, it works. And you know, if someone gets insulted by this stuff, they got to fucking get out of their house. They really do, because you know, this is stuff that has been around us for a long time. You know, this is stuff that's, you know, you sit back and you see the storytelling, and you just got to put a little common sense to it and enjoy what you see in front of it. Can you talk about casting, especially the antagonist for this? He's so fucking good. And Jill said that he had never done anything like this before. Talk about him, and talk about what went into casting both trios of girls.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. Tony, our costume designer, had put me in touch with a few of the cast members: Marilyn Chung, who was the Rose superhero, right. Jessica Nam, who is the Lily superhero, and Lauren Sickman, who played Fabuloso Doom. So like she introduced me to him, and I met him, and he's a very handsome man. He's a very serious man. And, you know, I looked at his IMDb page, and he had some, you know, screen credits and stuff like that, but it didn't look like he had any major significant roles. But I don't audition people. I have, like, again, that weird guilt thing in my life. I feel like I don't, like, it's silly for me to do auditions. I'd rather just meet someone for coffee and talk to them.
Right.
And show them
Makes
the
sense.
script and say, like, you know, is this something you want to do? Are you comfortable with this? Like, what do you think? So I met him, and he, like I said, very nice guy, very low key, very serious, very chill. And, you know, he wasn't sure when he read the script, you know, if he could do it, you know, because he had never played anything like that before. But I said, no, you'll be okay. Like, you know, I said, I'll let you know, but like after I left, there wasn't going to be anybody else I was going to talk to. I was going to pick him. And I let him know, like, later that day, like, you know, you got the part, like, I want you in the movie. It wasn't you got the part, it was I want you in the movie, you know. Yeah, I guess he may have been a little nervous beforehand, but when Toniette started getting the costumes together and like taking pictures, I was out of the country for work while Toniette was doing some costume tests, so she was taking pictures with Josh, our DP, and he had the costume on, and he just had this pose, and it's like once he put it on, it changed him, and he was able to be more comfortable and like cut loose a little bit, so he can really embrace the role. Yeah. And he was on a podcast with some of the other cast members a few weeks back and mentioned that he knows the source material of like anime and stuff like that. So I think he was able to channel some of that. But it wasn't until we did a script read with everybody, including the American Girls, the Superhero Girls, and Lawrence, and then I read the direction and some of the other voice acting, and I saw him do it, and it was great, and I already was like, oh my god, he's going to be amazing. And you give him some tweaks here and there, but it was a no-brainer. He was awesome to work with. I want to work with him again, absolutely. I want to work with all of them again, actually, because they were all so enthusiastic and prepared. And okay, so we'll talk about the Dorky Girls.
Sure.
So Allison Mayer, who played Rose, she's somebody I've wanted to work with for a while, and she's been in a number of like productions in Georgia, like Frankenstein Created Bikers. She knows Jill, and we've known each other, but we never had a project yet. So she actually played the Rose in our camera test. We shot a camera test like a year before we even started shooting, and we made that to pitch to a film organization to try and get a grant to make this film. So I had a lookbook, I had this test footage, and basically the test footage was Allison transforming into Marilyn. So those two have been a part of it from the get-go.
Yeah, you talked about during the Q&A.
Yes, yeah. So, and then Sydney is somebody I actually work with at my job, and she knew about the script for a long time because the script has been in the works since like 2015, or the idea of BFF Girls.
Hold on one second. What do you do for a living? I'm just curious.
So I work in dailies processing, so for films and television shows. So after production shoots, they offload their cards onto a drive, they send their drive to a facility, and they get their dailies processed. So I supervise shows. So we're working on a number of TV shows. We're working on a horror movie. I can't say which.
No.
But we're working on a horror movie right now that just wrapped. But I will say that one film that we did do the dailies on, because it's already completed, was Get Out. So we're a company in Atlanta, but they have branches all around. It's a Canadian company. So
I just met Jason Blum at South by Southwest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was very cool. Very, very briefly, but it was very cool.
Very awesome.
Shake his hand.
So they were filming in Alabama, Get Out, and they would FedEx us the drive. So we were processing the footage for Get Out in Georgia, in Atlanta.
Cool.
So
continue what you're saying.
So Allison and Marilyn were part of the project from the get-go. Sydney was a coworker of mine, and she knew about the idea since 2015, because that's when I started thinking about like wanting to do this thing. And it wasn't called BFF Girls at the time; it was called Romantic Fantasy Girls, and we changed it because eventually everybody was like, "This is a stupid title.
It doesn't roll off.
It doesn't. No, and that was the point.
Yeah.
Was that it doesn't roll off the tongue, and it says fantasy twice. So it's not like a typo or some goofy thing. Like it was an intentional thing. Nice. So but we changed it to Beautiful Fantasy Flower Girls. So BFF Girls, and Jessica is engaged to William Mahaffey, who runs Knoxville, and Jessica's wanted to break into acting, and she's done some stuff. Yes, William's actually a festival programmer. There are so many festival programmers that I like, but there's always sort of a weird, you're not sure if you should be friends with them, like, because you don't want to like get in just
business
because.
And personal.
Exactly, that thing. But actually, he's the one person who I've become very close friends with.
Nice.
Is William. Yeah, and him and Jessica are really good people, and we try to see each other as, a couple times a year and stuff.
Knoxville's on the list for
the
end of this year to go down. He's been on the program 3 times.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We've gone to Knoxville a bunch, and that's because he's also played my film since like 2012. So it was great to meet him and get to know him and become friends with him and Jessica. So Jessica also was very excited about the idea, and there wasn't like I said, there wasn't like an audition process. It was like, if you want to work on the film, let's do it. And we got Jessica Nam through Tony Egg because we needed a couple of other girls for the team, and I met with Jessica, and she's part of the Screen Actors Guild. She's part of the stunt team.
Right.
She does stunts. She was doing stunts on Black Panther and stuff like that. So, I brought the script to her, and I said, like, what do you think? Are you cool with this? Because I did ask them a question about something we were planning to do in the film, and I wanted to make sure that they were okay with it.
Right.
It's something that happens in the fight scene. So I ran that by them all, and they were like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Carol Ann was the last person to cast because she was cast on the day we were shooting. We had another actor that was cast, and she was a no-show on our shoot day. And in addition to like having an actor not show up on the one day we needed them,
Right.
we also had to like change our location last minute because we got rained out. We were supposed to shoot the fight scene outside, but we opted to change it to be shot on green screen because, and that's why the ending is so abstract and strange. They go to this like weird battlefield of sorts.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that's why they go there. It's because
It's fucking great.
that's why they're in that weird zone of battle as opposed to being outside. So Carol Ann, we got her that day, and we only had like 4 hours to work with her. So it was 4 hours to meet her, make sure she fit into the costume because there was no time to make any adjustments, and then get her filmed and wrapped in 4 hours before she had to go to another gig. But but it was meant to be because she wrote me in March, almost like about a year ago, when I was out of the country working and we were doing our crowdsource. She said like, oh, I see that the third girl hasn't been like cast yet. I was wondering if like I could audition or whatever. And at that time we actually did cast someone, but we didn't make any announcement yet. And I said, no, I'm sorry, we just casted. I'm very sorry, but I hope we can meet when I get back and we can talk and stuff. And she was very cool about it. But then this thing happened on the day we were shooting, and Allison knew Carol Ann and one of the other actresses in the film, Madeline, who plays the woman the second victim in the park scene. She knows Carol Ann as well because Carol Ann was on an episode of a show called Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell.
Okay.
And Madeline worked on that. And so they got her, and then it was like a crazy whirlwind of getting them filmed and getting her out of them. And then I met her later for like coffee, like a few days later, just to like thank her and talk to her and get to know her because I didn't get to do that beforehand. So, yeah, was that everybody?
I think that's everyone. Yeah, I think that's everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mention any of the voice actors like Dana Snyder or Michael St. Michaels or Lawrence Harvey, but they were all very nice and
Who's
very
the master?
Professional.
Who's the master?
The teacher. That's Lawrence Harvey.
I thought that was.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's Lawrence Harvey.
he's so perfect.
Yeah, he did an excellent job, and he recorded that in England and just sent me the files, and he did it like a few different ways.
Right.
And they were all funny. It was actually a high point of when I was like out of the country working because I listened to them. I was just laughing in my hotel room, listening to the files, and I sent them to Jill, and I was like, I think we're gonna use these, and she's like, yeah, those are great.
If there's ever a guy who deserves what he's gotten, it's Lawrence Harvey. I remember talking with him back at Rock and Shock 5 years ago, and that was the one thing I wanted to ask him, why? And real simple. He looked at me and he goes, because no one else is offering me lead roles, and this is a chance for me to put my signature on this. And his career has become cult legend level so far, and he's a talented theater actor, and then again at the core of horror is theater. I mean, you talk to anyone going all the way back decades and decades, but Romero is the first one that comes to mind about him tapping the local Pittsburgh theater for all of his talent, just about, for Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, and it just blows you away, the impact of what theater can do.
Not to mention that like a favorite movie he kept renting at a library was The Tales of Hoffman by the Archers, and that's a very theatrical film.
Very much.
Which is a great film. I really enjoyed that the look of it and the theatrics of it. I'm really drawn to those kinds of films actually, where the background looks very artificial. There's a sense of artificiality in the look of the film, and I've been trying to seek out more films like that, Japanese films too, because I just watched Tokyo Drifter by Sejan Suzuki, and that's got a very theatrical look to it, as well as like House has that look, and I'm just seeking out lots of those theatrical films. Kaidan from 1964. So I'm not as well versed in anime. My wife is big into anime.
Right,
like
exactly.
She loves Naruto. She's watching Boruto
but
now.
You too. That's what works well about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, getting Dana Snyder on board, that was the reason that sort of got me in talking to Jill, was because he's Screen Actors Guild, and I had never done a production with the Screen Actors Guild before.
That.
So she introduced me to like how
Whole
easy
new
it
level.
was. Yeah, exactly.
Whole
I
new
put the
level.
big boy pants on and started casting people part of the Screen Actors Guild. So
Speaking of big boy pants,
yeah.
So because I have a feeling we're going to be interrupted soon, because talk about all that blood, about the practical effects and what it was like to be able to create something that you don't see that element in the animation, at least not the animation I've seen or the TV side of it, where those beautiful outfits, those actions are reflected with something a lot more deeper and personal and stuff, with the blood and practical effects that we see in BFF Girls. Give your insight on it.
So, watching those fight scenes in Sailor Moon, it's all like magical sprinkles and bubbles and things like that, and they do have those moves, but any kind of attack that was done to them, I actually wanted it to be visceral.
Right.
To show like it's messed up. It's like what they're doing to the girls is messed up. So I definitely wanted to have that strange dichotomy between like very colorful, magical bubbles flying everywhere, but then like once the first move is done to Rose, like she starts bleeding out of the mouth, and in the second showing of it, somebody like exclaimed when that happened. They were like, oh, like to see like something painful was happening to her, because we wanted to show that, and then the same with the second move, which it's called the Crimson Wave.
So great.
And yeah, like we wanted it to just be like that sort of, I forget what the kind of, there's a term for like the Japanese like horror films, or like the aesthetic of those things where like blood sprays,
right.
But I wanted to have that kind of like look to it. And Blake, who is our producer and production designer, he's also in charge of like makeup along with Lucas Godfrey. He knows how to make blood and does it really well.
How much blood?
There was a few drums of and they had a pump. So it's funny to watch the dailies of it, because like it's on a green screen, and you have like Carol Ann, who was our first girl to get the blood, because she had to be wrapped immediately after. So the shot is very awkward, because here she is, she's framed, and then just out of sight are the people pumping the blood. So they're in the shot, but
movie magic, folks.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's the scene that's in the film is actually like a composite of all the three girls, and then put together, because they were all shot separately. That was not done in one shot. So, yeah, it was it was fun, and I think they enjoyed it. It was a little slippery afterwards, obviously, because they're in like stockings and stuff, and they had to sit on some apple boxes, and we put some tarp down, so we just want to make sure they didn't slip or anything like that. But no, that was what I asked them, before we even started production. When I met and cast them, I said, "Are you okay with this? Because we're going to do this in the film." And they're like, "Yeah, that should be fine. We'll be okay."
Can I ask you this? Because for me, I think the most disturbing aspect is Fabuloso Doom pouring it all over himself. It's you. Was the reaction? What was that reaction when he went ahead and did that? Because it's both beautiful and it's really disturbing. It reminds me of Excision, Ricky Bates' film, with the way that he portrays blood in the aspect of the period and the beauty and sexuality in it. What was the thinking on set when he did that?
That was one take. We did do a punch-in, but I'm also like, I'm not like, when it comes to something like that, I'm a one-take person.
Okay.
So I want to make sure like everything.
You don't want to set up again.
No, and I don't want to put the actor through that again.
Right, exactly.
Really, it should be a one and done thing. And there's definitely a few shots in a number of my films where we just do one take of it, because I don't want to do it again. That was incredible to watch, because like in a few shots earlier, a few setups we were doing earlier, there's a really wide shot and it's a shot where he's like looking to the sky, and Madeline is there like convulsing, and Allison walks into the frame sort of like an over the shoulder, but there's so much headroom because we have a visual effect that was going to be added later, so we needed all that space. So I'm watching this happen, and nothing's happening, obviously, because it's just like the movie magic is going to come later. But I have a few of those moments when we film. I'm like, what am I doing? This is the stupidest thing. This looks ridiculous. Like,
I love listening to the insecurity that comes with it because it paid off for you.
Thank you. But thankfully, yes, once the effect was in there, it's not awful anymore. But so later we got everything. Basically, what we try to do is everything that requires him to be in the costume clean, we get done, and then the last thing we do is where we get him doused in blood. So that way he can shower, and then he can get changed into his Fabuloso costume, and then we bring him out again. So that was the last 2 shots, I think, before lunch. I mean, he was just like, he was so like into it, and he was already doing like the, oh yeah, give me that.
It's like a fucking music video.
Yeah, exactly. Like, wow. So, and originally when I cut it, you know, I didn't plan for it to go as long as it did, but I was like, we should just keep going, you know, like it's just forever, you know, like that kind of like dissolve, because he was doing so many interesting things. And we also needed to show that the hat fell off, because in the next shot his hat is off. But yeah, that was a lot of fun, and we got it, and we shot it at 48 frames per second, so we can get that slow motion.
Okay.
And then you know, we shot the punch in because we had to get a shot of him like wiping his eyes and, you know, bringing up the tampon and stuff like that, and. So that was another one take thing. No, yeah.
Great, dude.
So
fucking great.
And yeah, we just wanted to be very unnerving in that whole sort of sequence. We had these filters on the lens, and of all the things to get inspiration from, it was the ending of Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one, where it's sort of like got a hazy look and a little bit like the end of Carrie, where she goes to the cemetery. Yeah, exactly. So like it's got this hazy, dreamy quality to it, and the whole scene has that filter on it. So it's beautiful because like it's sunny out and the trees are so green and everything looks very lush. But then like when something disturbing happens, like it sort of adds an extra like level of like surrealness and unnervingness, because he's in a completely white costume, and he's got all this beautiful green behind him, and then he's just...
That's where Michael Rosenbaum's Lex Luthor, when they have the foreshadowing of him, and he's staying there with that white suit, and all of a sudden it starts raining blood, and it's so beautiful, but you know it's so disturbing because you know what he's going to become. And to see the aspect, because there's a Snow White feel throughout BFF Girls, everything from the magic mirror to his costuming to his, you know, over the top, you know, the wicked kind of queen witch feel to it. But when you see him pour there, you know, the joke that's gone through most of BFF Girls, with the mirror, with the girls, with the aspect of different people involved, of that he's going to embrace the period blood, just come to fruition. And you slowing it down like that, and it's just, he looks in fucking ecstasy.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's that level. Was that something where you allowed him to improv, or is that something where it was more direction?
I didn't tell him to say, oh yeah, I'm thirsty. Actually, no, I may have fed him that line, but he did riff a lot. You know, he was yelling for it to rain, like let it rain and stuff like that, and like
he had fun with it.
Yeah, he had fun with it, and like I may have told him like that this is like, you know, he's been waiting for this. And you know, the funny thing about his whole master plan of drinking the period blood and how everyone is like, why do you want to do that? Like, he's like an idiot, you know, but he's like an idiot who's
he's defensive.
He gets insecure about it, but you know, ultimately, like, he's gonna do what he's gonna do. Like, I'm gonna do this, you know, I don't care what you say, I'm gonna drink this period blood because it's gonna work, you know. And he, you know, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I really don't know actually if it does work or not.
It's subjective.
Yeah, exactly. So but yeah, I just always wanted him to be like that, kind of like an idiot, but he still like follows through, like, so you have to admire him for that. But nobody talked him out of not doing that. But yeah, he definitely owned that scene. He was terrific, and we gave him a big round of applause after the.
I'm sure you did.
After the shot, because he just like as it even happened, like as it was happening too, like he didn't even bat an eye or flinch. He was, he was worried, like, should I swallow? I was like, what you can do is like, and I did an example with like a water bottle, like where I had the water pour on my face and I went to my mouth, and you can just like kind of like close your mouth and let it like spill out and stuff. So because that also looks kind of like weird and disturbing, but but he didn't have to worry about like actually like ingesting actual like the prop blood, like he could just like spit it out and stuff and whatnot. But yeah, the ghost that comes up and then the aftermath of that, like that was a great marriage of like the animation and the visual effects and then the practical, because when the ghost does that, it has some old practical effects that were enhanced digitally from a previous film, and they were able to go from that to like the actual practical blood raining on him in the scene. So yeah, it worked out very well. And Blake and Jeff are terrific, magicians of practical and visual effects. And where one, we try to do it practically when it comes to the blood, like when at the end scene, the big finale with the monster getting defeated. We wanted to do it practically, but when some of them weren't working out, we were able to enhance digitally. So we always try to do those things practically first, and then, if we have to go digital for some enhancements, we do.
There's so much more to talk about with BFF Girls, Brian. It has been great to have this time to explore this world, and folks, see it when it's out there. Support it. There's already so many people who do support it and love what you are doing, what you and Tori and everyone involved with this is doing. And from the levels of just simple interaction and the silly dialogue to more the fact of the beautiful costumes and the aspect of the locations, and as you had just talked about, the marriage of visual and practical and animation to over-the-top villains and heroes. There is a lot to love about BFF Girls, and congratulations on not only world premiering at Buff, but now playing here at CFF. Where can we find out more about it?
So you can follow us on social media. We're on Twitter. You can find us at BFF Girls Film, and we're on Facebook as well, BFF Girls Film. And my Vimeo page is vimeo.com/Brian Lanano. So you can see all my previous films, including I think the Indiegogo campaign, which has the test footage if somebody wants to see that, and a trailer. And we'll try and we're good about keeping up to date where we're playing, festival wise, because that's what we're doing right now. So after Chattanooga, we also had a screening at Florida Film Festival's Midnight Shorts program, which is always a great time. I love film festivals so much, and it's so upsetting sometimes when they all kind of happen at the same time, because I love coming here, I love going to Florida, and it was the same weekend and I couldn't, so I had to choose the one that was a little closer to me. But I was still thinking of the guys in Florida, that program. They do great work. And we're also playing at the Bone Bag Comedy of Horrors.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah,
Steve.
Yeah.
Steve's awesome.
Steve and Gord.
Right.
It's funny listening to them talk on their show, and they talk, because they played a few of my films too. And I remember Gordon saying something like, I don't know if I want to meet Brian, like his films are weird. Man. Yeah, and it's funny because like my films appear crazier than I do. I come off very normal.
Genre directors are the least violent, most down-to-earth people you will ever meet across the board.
Thanks for
that. Most welcome, and that's the truth when it comes to it, because this is your outlet to release what's inside of you that, and again, and I'll leave this as the final point. Fabuloso Doom, how much of that is you? To a certain extent, releasing that outrageous side, something that, as someone who seems more reserved, someone who's professional, can't do that. So that's something, it's,
Yeah, I think there's like a little bit of me in the girls, and a little bit of Fabuloso, a little bit of the Mirror, none of the Cat, I'll say that.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's all Lawrence.
Yeah, that's all Lawrence. But I mean, we wrote that dialogue, for him, and it was like why like yeah like with writing the dialogue you have to go to like a certain mindset or something like that, or think about like how to end a scene, or like what should this person do,
right?
And sort of like you have to like you can't, if he's gonna be this kind of a character, we have to like commit and write him so he's like that. So if this person's like a pervert, we have to have him say perverted things, and our intention was he has to say the most abrasive thing to a girl, like, and to show that it's wrong to do that, and the good thing is like that every time he pulls that, he gets punished by the girls, so that was another intentional thing. So
Great,
well, thank you so much. Actually, the Friday morning after our first screening, I woke up and I was able to write down the basics of the episode 2.
Hey, congratulations.
Thanks. So yeah, we wanted to do, there's a little teaser, there's a post-credit scene at the end of the film, and it teases like a potential future episode. Whether we do it or not is really up to the audiences. I hope so too. I think a lot of people say like it has legs to have more growth and stuff. So we want to do more, and specifically more episodes that involve kind of like things that young girls have to deal with when growing up.
It reflects a lot of Funny or Die.
Yeah.
A lot with it. So there is a market for it, no doubt, and I certainly hope you do.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that.
Brian, thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure.